Let's start the session today. Okay, so I am Maheshwar Reddy. I have almost 11 years of experience into entire manual testing. Uh, if any audio problem is there, right, just let us know. At this point, you guys are all on mute. Okay. So am I audible, right, for all? And are you all able to see the screen as well, right? Yes. Okay. Okay. Fine. So before we start, right, I just want to give you an overview how exactly and what exactly is the need of testing in any in the software industry. See, we all know that having a third eye on any of the requirement that is being developed will always fetch a good results. Now, generally, right, in a real-time industry, generally the software development happens 80 to 90% of the time in offshore onshore model, and then the developer sit in somewhere, the client actually sits somewhere. Okay, and there's a lot of miscommunication that happens when the actual requirements are being discussed. Okay, so I just want to depict this in a simple way. So this classic picture will help us understanding what exactly happens in any software industry. So before that, right, just wanted to briefly give you high-level roles that are present in software industry. So we have a customer, we have a business consultant, then a project leader who will be handling the entire project, and the analyst at the offshore from the development side, who will analyze the requirements with respect along with the business consultant, and then the programmers who will develop the project, the testers who actually test it. And because of new things that are coming into testing, we are also doing load testing. And then we people there are people who document it. Now if you see in this picture, this is what exactly the customer needs, but the business consultant has read it in a different way. He gave some transition to the project leader or the project manager who is handling that project from the development perspective, and this is what the project leader has understood. Because of that, the analyst has understood it in a different way, and that's how the entire requirement has completely changed. And the final product is this, right? So what is it happening? There's a lot of mismatch from what exactly the client is, the customer is, the customer wants, and what exactly the end customer is looking at, and how exactly it has been developed. So because of this, there's a lot of amount that is getting wasted. As per the industry standard, right, almost 1 to 2 trillions of amount are spent on an average because of requirements mismatch. That's where the need of testing comes into picture. So what are we doing here? We are trying to minimize the loss that is incurred because of this requirement mismatch. Okay, so what exactly are we doing here? We are trying to analyze the actual requirement, what customer is expecting, and we will make sure that at least whatever is being developed is as per the customer requirement. So that's the essential need of having a tester in any software project. Now, when we say software testing, right, it actually needs a lot of exploration, in the sense, say suppose I am into a banking project. I just started my career into testing and I don't know anything about the banking. So how will I make sure that whatever is client is in mentioning to us, and we are making sure that whatever is the software developed is as per the requirement. So that requires a lot of exploration into the requirements, which means we have to indirectly act as a business analyst. Okay, so that's what. So exploration is the first and primary thing that any tester has to have has to have. So which means what is the actual customer requirement can only be achieved if we have the knack or understanding of the actual requirement, which means whatever is the domain we are testing, we should have basic knowledge on the particular domain. So, the point here which I wanted to show is, whatever is the testing way, first you should have a basic understanding on the requirements or whatever is the domain you are testing. Then comes the testing process. Okay, so what exactly we do is, we understand the requirements, we test it. This is on a simple note we just let you in. But when you say suppose a requirement A is given to us, it says that I have to log in into so and so application. This is the requirement. So what we do is, we will try to just jump into the project. Once the code is deployed, we start testing it. Now there comes the actual problem. Say suppose the client has changed the requirement, we are not notified. So it's obvious that the changes are expected from client, because they may or may not have a clarity on what exactly is the end result, right, from clients, right? So in that case, if once the software is developed and we have tested as per the old requirement, what happens? Client will come back and say that, hey, this is not what my requirement is, right? So that's where people started documenting everything. So that's where the process of STLC has come into picture. So STLC is software testing life cycle. Okay. So this, whatever I said about the requirement, right? That's just a small example of the small example which has led to the rise of STLC. So STLC has. So I will tell you the another example. Say suppose the requirement has completed. So tomorrow there is a new extra requirement that has added, which is a continuation to requirement A. Say suppose now requirement B came. Okay, this is a continuation of requirement A. Now I left the organization. So tester 1 has left the organization. So what happens? He doesn't, so new tester 2 doesn't have any idea about what requirement is. Now what happens? Obviously he needs lot of time to understand requirement A, and then to test requirement B. He needs extra effort, right? Because of which there's a lot of there's a lot of time that is getting wasted from the client perspective in return, which means there's a lot of amount that has to be spent because of this. So time and money is wasted here. Okay, so now what's the solution? Solution is documenting the test effort done by tester 1, right? So that's the solution for this particular problem. All right, Harsh is asking, is this class for Selenium? No, this is manual. Selenium is at next in another 1 hour time. Okay, so coming back, so the solution can be mitigated by this way, right? So that's the reason industry came up with the concept of STLC. So these are two small examples of the need of the STLC process. So now what in STLC what we do is we have requirement stage where we do the requirement analysis, okay, and then any issues or understanding is not clear, we clear it, is clarified here in this stage. Now then we come to the test plan, then the test cases authoring, then test execution, then defect management, and then closure, and then deployment in production. So before that UAT is done. UAT is user acceptance testing, and then finally it's deployed into production. It's moved into production. So this is how a typical STLC process has come into picture. So by looking into the all the classic problems that are happening or occurs during the software testing, people came up with this solution. Now from this training perspective, from manual testing perspective, we will cover all these sections in a software testing lifecycle. Okay, and then apart from that we'll have a real-time project which we'll be projecting so that you can feel you can have the actual feel of how a real-time testing project looks like. Now coming back, now so as part of this training, right, we would like to showcase you how exactly the types of testing that looks in real time. So when we say manual testing, right, it can be done in from the mobile's perspective, or from the web application perspective, or from security testing perspective, or it can be a database perspective. So there are a lot of core areas in any software development. So software development, there are lot of areas where we do the testing. So on a high level, right, we have a web application in any software project. We have the database where the data is stored, and then we have web services which integrate the multiple servers and the databases, and then we have ETL, which is it's a data warehousing concept, and then we have these days mobile apps are more in demand. So we have mobile apps level testing or mobile applications testing, and then we have security level testing. So all these come under the manual testing. Okay. Now doing the same work or repeating the same task every time is a tedious and time consuming, right? And there are lot of resources who are actually used for this manual testing. Lot of resources, time is consumed, and amount is poured into this manual testing process. As a result, people came up with the concept of automation testing. Okay, so which means this is again a tool based testing, which will help us doing this repeated manual testing process in an automated way. Okay, so there are many tools in the market like Selenium, which is an open source tool, and then we have qtp, which is now UFT. Okay, this is from HP. And then there are load level automation tools like load runner. Okay, and there are many other tools which are in the market, but these three are in good demand from the automation testing perspective. So from the manual testing perspective, we have tools again. This is more for the test management like HPALM, and then we have TFS. Okay, we have Jira, we have um Bugzilla. So these are all test management tools more from the manual testing perspective. All right. So as part of this training, we'll touch base with TFS or Jira. Okay, and then we'll showcase on the Bugzilla part. Okay. So this is on a high level what exactly this manual testing is all about. Now, from today's session, right, it would be more interactive session. I would like you guys to post your questions so that we'll try to answer them. And once we are clear, we'll start from day after tomorrow. All right. So I'm done for the day. Let's have the questions. See, we want it to be more interactive, and you post your questions. We just wanted to see how what exactly are you looking into. Okay. Yes. So we do have Biplab is asking what we have two groups of testers, manual and automatic. Yes. Generally, testing is done manual way or the automated way. Yes. Every project will have both. Both. See, from the industry perspective, right? We have 80% manual testing itself. Only 20% is done automated way. See, again, now the reason being, right, when we start any project, right, nothing is stable. We don't have any stable environment, right? So in an unstable environment, we cannot do any automation. So that's the reason till the time it is stable, we do it manual way. Okay, and once it is stable, whatever is the regression or what do you say, whatever is the regression suit we say, we do it in the automated only on regression suit. uh, Farah is asking what's going on the schedule of this class. So we'll have this class Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7. Okay, and it goes till 27th. It may extend actually also based on uh, what do you say, how much we're gonna cover, but till 27th it will. See, today's class we want to make sure it's more of interactive, what you guys are expecting, what we want to start. See, what we will showcase is the entire STLC process. Okay, this class will cover everything on the manual testing. We just want to make sure uh, what you guys are expecting, and we want to make sure we just want to communicate, will that happen or not. Okay, on a high level. Manual tester starts from zero development phase. I didn't get this question, Vipla. See, if you want me to unmute, I can unmute you guys. I mean, if you want to discuss it. Okay. Oh, okay. So while programmer starts development, simultaneously manual testing starts. Yes. So in real time, right, we have with the evolution of the STLC process, in every phase, of the development cycle, tester involves. Now from okay, let's not confuse you guys. See, as and when the client comes with the requirements, right? Both developer as well as testers start in tandem, in parallel actually. So in the sense, developer gets the requirement, tester gets the requirement, both analyze the requirement and come up with their set of questions and clarifications on the requirement. And then parallelly, once these are clarified, okay, then developer starts his work, tester will start with his testing lifecycle like requirement analysis, then he comes up with the test plan, test case authoring, and then he will be ready for execution. Once developer completes his code development, he will hand over the product to us, we will test it. So this will take some time, right? So there's an overlap here. So that's the reason from the requirement stage itself, tester starts his work. Okay. Does a manual tester has to do all types of testing in real time? I mean, if I join as an entry level QA, do they expect me to do? Uh, no, from an entry level perspective, right? It's just based on the training they give on the project, they will expect that level of testing to be done. So from my past experience and what I'm seeing in the industry, 90% of the entry level QAs will be doing the web level testing, or you will get a website or an application, you see whatever is that is shown in the front end, you will be testing it. But going forward with the experience increases, you will start doing the multiple levels of testing. Hope it answered your question. Okay. So tester starts depending on developers development progress. Ideally speaking, right? Again, going back, it all depends on the client, how the client is driving the project. Okay. Say suppose uh, at this point, I just don't want to confuse you guys more, but say suppose there are three projects that are running: project 1, project 2, and project 3. Okay, so it has dev 1, dev 2, and dev 3. So three developers are developing three different projects, and say suppose only one tester is involved here, right? In this use case, tester 1 is dependent on the work completion of all the three developers. Okay, and say suppose there's a link, say suppose project 3 is dependent on project 1 and 2. Okay, and now project 3 is developed but project 1 and 2 is not developed, then again it's a problem, right? So based on how the client is driving the project, okay, so that will define how the testers are dependent on the developers. Okay, from an overall perspective, client or whatever is the model of testing we are doing, right, it will make sure that we are independent of the development task. Okay, but in real time there's a dependency, because if the development is not done, we don't have we should have to sit idle till the time that particular module is completed, right? But whatever is the model of testing or software development is happening, right, client will make sure that there's whatever testing tasks are there that are independent of the development task. Okay, so there will be an overlap of time or time gap will be there, okay, between the development and testing process. Okay, and he will make sure that testers don't sit idle. All right, but end of the day we are dependent on the developers. All right. Okay, any other questions please? Okay, so what is agile based testing? Okay, so as I said, right, STLC or SDLC. SDLC is from development perspective. So we have multiple models here. Okay, there's called waterfall model. Okay, and then we have agile. Okay, and there are other models that are in the market. So these multiple models will define how do you develop a project or how do you do your testing activities. Okay, so agile is one such model. Agile is what it actually does is, instead of doing the instead of doing the entire work at one at a time, it will break it the master requirement into small bits and pieces, so that it will be done in an what do you say, it will be not, it will be done in an exponential way, or a linear, say suppose it's in a linear way, in the sense I have I'll give you a classic example. Say suppose I have to develop Gmail application. So what it has a login page, then the inbox page, or what is called as landing page, and then we have compose, and then sent, etc. Right? This is the master requirement for Gmail. Now, in the actual waterfall model, what it does is, say suppose Gmail want to come up till the compose page. So what it has to do, it has to develop the Gmail URL, then the login page, then the inbox or the landing page, and it has to go to the compose section or whatever is the compose link. Now say suppose this completion of this, it is taking 1 year of time. Say suppose, say let's minimize it to 3 months of time. Okay, till 3 months the Gmail product is not coming into market. Now we not in the market or Gmail not in the market means it is losing some revenue. Instead of that, what they do is they split it into till inbox and then compose as a separate section, separate requirement. Now what is it happening? Say suppose developing till this particular point it requires 2 months, and for compose it takes 1 month, say suppose. Now what is happening? Gmail is coming into picture 1 month earlier than actually it was anticipated, right? Which means it is into market, and they can whatever the sales or the marketing guys, they can market it much earlier than what is anticipated. That's one way of looking into it. The alternate way of looking is, say suppose at the end of second month or first month there's a change in the login page. Now whatever is the effort from both from developer perspective as well as the testing perspective, the 1 month effort is wasted and they have to start from the scratch again. Now ideal time was 3 months, right? Because of 1 month loss, it is extending to fourth month. So what is it happening? There's a delay. The effort is wasted, the time is consumed, resources are wasted, money is wasted, right? So that actually happens in a waterfall model. So in order to mitigate all these issues, right, they came up, the simple solution they came up is the agile model, where you split the master requirement into bits and pieces. Say suppose Gmail first, that web page is first developed, it is released into market. Then the login page, it's released into market. Then the inbox, it's released into market. So these are all, so this 4 master requirements is split into 1 month each. So what is happening? Instead of 3 months, the entire task is divided into 1 month sprints, and you are doing it in a step-by-step manner. So say suppose at the end of first month, uh, I got the developer got the login page requirement, right? So now till then he's just working on the URL itself, or the initial setup of the Gmail, where he has to come up with the database as well as the front end, right? So only first month itself he is working only on Gmail. Now at the end of first month he got the login page. Say suppose at the end of second month the login page requirement has changed. Still this particular work is in the production, and there is no loss of time, right? The Gmail page is still active on the production, so that will keep the customers saying that, hey, I see something in the real time. I'm not waiting till the time login page is coming into picture, right? So that's the advantage of having agile. So that's agile testing on a high level actually. Okay, what is a test management tool? Test management tool is, say suppose, as I said earlier, in the STLC process, right, we have requirement and requirements analysis, and then test case preparation, test plan creation, etc. All these, right? All these are the STLC modules. Now, I have to document each and every section, right? So where do I keep this? I have to keep it somewhere, right? So that is nothing but this test management suite. Okay, widely used is HPLM. There are few open source tools like Bugzilla is there. Okay, Jira is also one free to download, but then again you have to do some integration. So these are all test management tools. Okay. Okay, what is expected from an entry level QA? On what topics do we have to face interview questions? From the entry level perspective, right? People or client expects us to understand the entire STLC process. Okay, how do you do the requirements? How do you analyze it? How do you come up with the clarifications? Okay, so that's the entire STLC process. They'll try to ask you. So what is there in the test plan? How do you create a test plan? Okay. So how do you make sure your test, whatever test cases are written, are in line with the requirements? So suppose whatever is the requirement, so requirement 1, 2, 3 is there. So you have written some 100 test cases. So are you making sure that these 100 test cases are covering all the requirements or not? So how do you do it? So that is so how do you create the metrics? And how do you do the test execution? Say suppose you found any issue, so how do you handle it? Because obviously developers will say that this is not a defect, right? In such cases, how do you handle this? So in a real-time perspective, they will ask us, they will expect these questions. The entry-level person can expect these questions from the industry or from the client. Okay. So in this training, right, once we explain each and every module of STLC, okay, we will give you the real-time questions, whatever are the real-time questions that will be asked from an entry-level perspective, from a mid-level perspective, from the product manager perspective also, we have a lot. And this is the one section, okay, and this is the other section which we have to concentrate. All right, hope it answered your question. Okay, someone raised in hand actually. Okay, what is the role of a business analyst? Say, suppose, okay, so we are working in a banking project, say suppose, okay. So typically this particular project has a project manager, a test lead, okay, and some 8 to 9 test resources. Say let's it is a project of 10 resources: PM, project manager, test lead, and then 8 testers, of which 6 are entry level and 2 are of mid level. They have some 3 to 5 years of experiences. Now all of them have worked on web level testing, okay, or web application testing. Web application testing can be anything. It can be a Gmail application, it can be an ICC bank, or it can be ANZ bank, or it can be any other application. It may not pertain to just banking domain itself, but they have done some web application testing. They don't know anything about the banking domain, right? And typically, say suppose it is an offshore onshore model, which means client sits in any in a different location, and the actual development or testing is done in a different location. In such scenarios, right, there's a time gap, at least time gap will be there, right? So now today I saw the requirements. At the end of the day, I'll post the questions to the client. Client come back to us the next day morning, and I'll the next day morning the tester looks into the requirement clarifications. Now what exactly is happening here? There's an overlap. There's a time is wasted here for a day, single day, right? Instead, if the questions were handled previous day itself, the next day is not wasted, and we can invest that particular amount of time in any other testing efforts like test case preparation or test plan creation. So how that can be mitigated? If we have a business analyst at the offshore or in the client side itself who will handle those questions, sorry, immediately. So business analyst is the one who have a fair enough of knowledge on the banking domain or whatever domain we are testing, whatever domain the application that is being developed, we are testing, right? So the business analyst will handle those domain level questions. All right. Hope it answered your question. Is it mandatory to learn SQL and Unix? Uh, it is always advisable to have a knowledge on SQL, Unix, and then other areas like Java code. Okay. Why am I saying this is, one second please. It is advisable actually, but from an entry level perspective, people will not expect this. Okay. But if you are working in a web application or web application testing or a database testing project, we obviously need SQL. Reason being, right, any application interacts with database. Okay. So there will be a lot of read writes, okay, inserts into it, updates into it, modifications. So how do you validate that the data that is coming on the front end is as per the database, right? In such cases, you need to have a knowledge on SQL. Okay. Unix is when you will have a lot of batch jobs or ETL projects are there. You have to run your mappings. In such cases, Unix is required. Now Java or any .NET or any other coding language, right? When you are doing Okay, we didn't mention you about the black box and white box testing. Okay, so any manual tester can be a black box tester or a white box tester. So simply to mention you, black box testing is something which we test which is visible to us. Okay, the front end application testing or the database testing, that comes under black box testing. Whereas white box testing is something which we test how the code is written, whether it is as per the requirements or not, or whether it is as per the logic that is given or not. So if you test the code, that is white box testing. Okay. So if you want to become a white box tester, then it is advisable for everyone to know any of the coding language. Say suppose that particular application is developed in Java, it is advisable for you to understand how the code is written in Java. Okay, in such situations you need to have an understanding on Java. If it is in .NET, you have to understand .NET. All right. Yes, Raki, you had a question. I have unmuted you. You can speak if you want.
Hi, do you also teach Java?
No, we don't teach Java, but we have a separate session for it. I mean, if you would like to have, we can have an offline discussion on this.
Yeah, could you please send a
Yeah,
mail regarding that?
yes, I'll ask my team to get back to you. Okay.
That'll be great. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any other questions, please? Okay. So what is the level of SQL we need to understand? Do we need to understand PLSQL? No, it's not needed actually. We just need to know how do you write the basic SQLs like DD, select queries. Okay. How do you write where conditions, etc. So basic level of SQL is required. Okay. From the entry level perspective. But as in when your experience increases, you need to know PLSQL also. Okay. Yes, if you are confident on the basics of SQL and web service testing, and you know good knowledge on STLC and test management tools, yes, you can apply for mid level. Okay. In a project, how many we usually have automation and manual? The testers ratio. See, if it's a okay, basically any software project is will start from scratch. Okay, okay, or it can be a maintenance project. Okay, so scratch means the environment is not stable, right? As we discussed earlier, in that scenario, we need to have complete manual testers itself. If it's a maintenance project, right? So already the product is in life. There are only few changes that happen once in a while. So because of the changes that are happening once in a while, the entire application may be impacted. So in that situation, we do a regression test. Okay, 1 second, please. So we have to do regression suit every time. In that situation, or is it frozen? Can you see it now? Okay. Yeah. So production or maintenance phase is automated. So whenever a regression suit has to be done, right? Every time doing the entire regression suit or retesting the entire application manually is not advisable. So in that such situation, we do the automation testing. All right. Any other questions? Okay. What is the database testing? Okay. So database testing is nothing but, see, as I said, right, any web application has a backend where it stores the data that is coming from front end. Front end is the web application which we see on our browsers, right? Simple example is Gmail. You have written some. You still seeing the domain page? Okay, one second. Others are also not able to see the screen. Okay, so coming back, Vipul, others are able to see. Can you cross check once again, please? So okay, so coming back again, right? So whatever that is stored in the front end, say suppose from Gmail perspective itself, I have written my emails. Okay, I have to when I log out and come back again, right? I have to see my sent emails. So at this point, how will I make sure that whatever I have sent is coming in the front end? In order to make sure it whatever is the data that is being changed, it will be stored in the database. So that is your backend. So now if you have to test it, so that if testing is done on the backend, it can be any database. It can be Oracle, it can be SQL Server, Teradata, anything, any of the databases, right? So if you test how the retrieval is happening between the front end and back end, so that is database testing. Okay, on a high level. But then again, it's a vast topic actually. Okay. So basically, more manual testers need to be had. Yes. Okay. All right. Any other questions, please? Um, Sujana is asking, I heard the knowledge of Selenium is important even for manual testing. See, there's a lot of debate that is going these days, the need of automation testers than the manual testers. Yes, because of automation, the number of manual testers might decrease. See, it is for even for us also. In the olden days, mobile was just for calling, but these days it has a lot of inbuilt applications like web browsing, music, etc. Right? You're having extra applications that are coming into in a mobile. Same way, a manual tester having a knowledge on automation and can do automation is an added advantage, right? So from the client perspective or from the money perspective, having two resources will consume more money and time than having a single resource who is able to do both manual and automation. So that's the reason a manual tester with automation knowledge is needed. Okay, and these days Selenium is one such tool, which is open source tool, right? It's a free tool that is available. So people are going to Selenium. Entry level is ideally it should be manual actually, but having a knowledge on automation is always good. Okay. Yeah. All right. Any other questions, please? So there's a question, as part of this we'll have a brush up on SQL. Yes, we will have a session, 1 day or 2 day session on the SQL also. Okay, from few concepts on the database also. We'll just brush up on the database and SQL concepts. Okay. We will actually share some good PPTs and PDF docs on Unix as well as web services testing also. But if you want to have an in-depth knowledge on web services, there's actually a session that is going on parallelly on web services testing. Okay. So if anyone is interested, you can go through that. Okay, in automation, QTP and Selenium, which one is in more demand? These days, Selenium is in more demand. The reason being, right, it's an open source tool. It's a freeware at this point. Again, support costs you, but it's an open source tool, right? Selenium is in much demand these days. See, the advantage with QTP is it's a complete. It comes with a complete suite. HP, we have ALM as well as UFT. QTP is now renamed to UFT. Okay. So it's a complete suite from HP. So if you look from test management perspective, having HP LMS very advantageous for us because it gives you complete picture. It will keep track about the test cases. It will help you in understanding what to do on a regression testing suite. It will give you the complete picture, the from documentation as well as from the metrics perspective, from the test manager's perspective or PMO perspective. It gives a complete picture. Now UFT is an extension. It's an automated tool from HP itself, right? So that particular entire suite, if people are ready to buy, QTP is. But when I see from an overall market perspective, Selenium is in mass demand these days. Okay, if I have to apply for web services testing jobs, do I have to work on manual testing? Uh, okay, just to reiterate for everyone, there is only on a high level there are manual and automation testing. Under manual testing, you have the database testing, ETL testing, web services testing, okay, mobile app testing, okay, and other testing, okay. So web services testing is part of manual testing, okay. It's ideally suggestible that you should have an understanding on manual testing in order to go to an automation because a simple example is you have to give an effort estimation for an application to do the automation testing. Without having done the manual testing, right, you cannot give a correct estimation. And if the environment is not stable, you cannot automate it. You have to do it in a manual way, right? So it is always advisable to have manual testing knowledge in order to start with Selenium or whatever is the automation tool. Can we perform import export activity in a Selenium as just like QTP? Yes, we can do it. It's a robust tool actually, Selenium it's very cool these days. You can write it in C sharp, you can write it in Java. Yeah. All right. We have 2 more minutes because there's another session that will start. So any other questions, please? We will be again having a session day after tomorrow, and then on again on Friday. Okay. So any questions, right? You can join the session. We can have a discussion again. Okay. Also, you can post on our email. Also, we will try to answer your questions. Uh, 4 weeks is enough to make ourselves comfortable from scratch. Okay. there's another session that will start by Karthik in just 1 minute of time. If you want, you can join that session. Karthik will be the best person to give the answer on Selenium perspective. Yes, from scratch. Yes. So any other questions on manual testing, please? Okay. All right. So the schedule has been mailed to you all. Okay. I'll ask my team to again get back to you. Okay. So we will send out a detailed schedule. Okay. And we will go accordingly with it. But again, I'm reiterating, we will have a lot of example based manual testing sessions. Okay. Before we start the actual live project, even in the live testing also, we'll do it by more examples. Okay. And that too from the real time perspective itself. Okay. All right. Yes, with the schedule we'll send the topic details also. All right. Okay. All right, guys. We are running out of time. We will join again on Thursday. Okay. Thanks all for joining the session. Good night and good day.